News Compass, the first edition of the new year 2020. And the ODM party is pushing for a referendum in the next 6 months on the back of planned countrywide meetings to consolidate views on the Building Bridges Initiative report. Odinga's party, in its submission to the Yusuf Haji-led team, proposed a 7-year presidential term. It remains to be seen if the party will revisit these proposals, which will require a referendum in the second phase of collecting the views. But the BBI report has divided politicians, with some holding fears that the report, second phase, is meant to create positions for some in government. With many experts predicting costly bitter collapse of the ruling Jubilee Party, is the BBI a new dawn or yet another false start in the Kenyan political arena? For that discussion, I'll be joined by Ben Mulua, political commentator, analyst on governance issues. Good evening. Happy New Year.
A very good one to you.
And we equally have the Member of Parliament Saboti constituency in ODM ticket, that is Caleb Amisi. And good evening, Mheshimiwa. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Around 1 year ago, we were here and predictably some young lads said that they will hope one day you'll be the president now that we make a chunk of the population.
Can I help you answer that for him?
Yes.
He knows where we come from historically. And it's time I materialized our alliance, the G3.
Yes.
Let's forget about these funny things people are talking about. The youth of this country are looking up to us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
I'll
Ben
be your
Mulua.
deputy if you listen.
He has answered.
all the
On your
questions
behalf.
Yes.
on my
Good,
behalf.
good. Okay,
I
thank you.
have spokespeople and spokesmen. So the team is set.
Well, I thank you for coming on board. But Ben, if I may come to you.
Yes.
We have the BBI report, and now we are in the second phase following the gazettement of the Yusuf Haji Task Force led committee by the President.
Yes.
When you look at the BBI, it poses many questions. We acknowledge that it has provoked passion, ended months of political uncertainty, but there are some who feel on the other end of the divide, and the hard task for the President and the ODM leader is to bridge the two ends of the river. Can they bridge over the troubled waters?
That's a very interesting way of looking at it, in my view, because what we have currently is a situation whereby this country came from a very antagonized environment, a very toxic environment in the 2017 elections, where literally the country was split right through the middle. And this was because of the nature of the contests that we encourage in the sense of politics.
Okay.
Now, since March 2018, the President and the former Prime Minister shook hands, and that was the birth of the handshake. And almost a year down the line, there was the BBI task force, which was put in place to talk to Kenyans, collect views, and come up with a report in terms of how we can be able to address those challenges of 2017 and before. What I find a bit wanting is the fact that we have a leaking roof, and what we have done is to remove the chewing gum that we had placed in the one area that was leaking on the roof and moved it to another place.
Stick it to the other end.
Yes. So we still have a leaking roof. As it stands today, you realize that the entire conversation around BBI has continued to generate so much unnecessary anxiety and tension. And in my view, that should not actually be the outcome. Because if indeed this was a process that was honest and holistic and genuine in terms of building and uniting this country, then we wouldn't be having the kind of conversations we are seeing in the media today.
In that regard, then, to just stop you there,
Yes.
To just red flag you, you said that if this entire course was genuine,
Yes.
we would not be having the sort of conversations that we are having.
Yes.
Do you then mean, or are you casting doubt on the bromance between Odinga and Kenyatta?
I'm not essentially casting doubt because that is yet to be seen.
Why is the other end, why is the other end uncertain though? I mean, to be specific.
One of the key things why there is so much uncertainty is because it is becoming evident by the day that this whole process has everything to do with 2022 and political realignments rather than actually bringing onto the table a genuine process that can make all Kenyans comfortable and make it possible for Kenyans to agree to forge together as a nation. And I'll be specific. one of the key things that is coming out very prominently, and if you listen to most of the people, especially the proponents of the BBI, it comes out as if now it is narrowing down to an idea of trying to either frustrate or remove the deputy president from the political landscape. Or to a large extent, that is how it is being interpreted. And the reality on the ground is that the same way the president has a huge following across the country is the same way the former prime minister has a huge following across the country, and is the same way the deputy president has a huge following in the country. So what we are doing is we may have wanted to bring this country together, but we are small in a small way beginning to divide it into 3 small parts. And in my view, that is something that needs to be corrected now before we begin to raise unnecessary temperatures as we build up to the next election. As you can see right now, Kenyans are so animated, it's like we have an election that is coming up by April this year. Yet we have a full 2 years to go before even we start campaigning.
Okay, yes. And you have mentioned a very important note, because there seems to be the whole essence of the political climate swallowing the entire affairs of the country, because look at Burundi, Ethiopia, and equally Tanzania heading in for election 2020, but they seem not experiencing as intense campaigns as Kenyans do in the country. Honorable Caleb Amisi, if I may come to you, the support across the board that the BBI got, the handshake for that matter, has been all-encompassing. The idea, the intent was to free Kenya from the shackles of violence. But as things are at the moment within the establishment, it seems we have a predictable solution for unpredictable problem that beyond 2022, we might continue to experience perpetual continuity of political violence. What's the point then?
Yeah, I think first things first. It's good my friend is here. We agree to disagree, but we are still good friends. This BBI thing, we are of course disagreeing. We shared a moment in the morning. We were brought together in a certain forum.
Yes.
And surprisingly, we have also been brought here the same day.
Yes.
Less than 10 hours. You've been brought here.
We should consult the oracles.
You should. So I'm also interested to start with how you've even written there, broken bridges. You know, we are talking about building bridges. You have already broken them.
But they seem broken.
Actually, there are very serious gaps.
My point is, we do not want to really think through what brought us to these building bridges. Remember, even to be at this point, or even for a nation to speak to itself, it has taken us through a bloody path. People have fought, nations have even gone to war.
Civil strife.
Yes, which where we are.
Okay.
Now we are at a point where we are talking to each other without having gone through war, without having fought, without bloodshed, without what happened in 2007. Amicably, people as a nation, leaders agreeing, without an international mediator, without, you know, all the scenes that we witnessed during the 2007 and 2008. And you still find people coming to oppose such a process. So you wonder, what is the intention? For us to continue fighting, do they thrive in chaos? Are they happy, or is their career pegs on a chaotic nation? So you wonder, what is the other opposite side? What do they want? The people who are opposing, people just talking to each other. Forget about the negative thoughts you have, whether it is genuine or not. But as it is it a good for the nation to talk to each other? But we don't need to agree, but is it good for a nation? Okay. First of all,
okay, the point
is it good for a nation?
Okay, the point is...
Let's agree there. Is it good for a nation to talk to itself, for people to come together? Whether you agree about the content of the discussion is a different matter, but is it good for a nation to talk to each other or to continue fighting?
Okay,
do you want us to go to the streets? Did you like the scene we caused on the streets? Okay,
the point is that Kenyatta and Odinga were globally praised or uploaded. It was laudable for them to come together. But the point is that you said people who are opposed. Isn't it fair that in a democracy you have the right to oppose and you have the right not to? Because equally,
very well.
You feel, the point is that the ODM party, your party, feels that William Ruto on the other end of the political divide is unelectable. I mean, you are calling for his resignation, and that's part of the division that we continue to experience for what your party leader and Ruto's boss are saying is to bridge the opposite end of the divide. So why are we not seeing the sort of the uniform political mosaic for Kenya to move forward?
So before I answer you, why can't you start by answering mine first?
Well,
it was good for a nation to talk to each other.
Well, it is good to prevent situations like what we have in Syria and Libya.
You need to agree it is a good thing.
Now, talk of prevention of civil strife.
The nitty-gritty is there, how we are going to approach the whole thing of people talking together is now what we are in now. We've not yet completed the process. What is important to know is that all the political leaders were in Bomas. They endorsed the BBI. We agreed that this document, as it is now, is not implementable. We want to seek more views. We want to present it before the public. We want Kenyans to have copies. We want Kenyans to have an opportunity to add or to even recommend and to even subtract some of these provisions so that at the end of the day, the task force, whose mandate has been renewed, will have another opportunity to have a final document that encompasses views from a wider sector of our society. That was the agreement. And the process we all agreed is what is being taken to the people as we agreed. So when you agree, and remember the same clique of people.
Who are these people, Honorable? Let me see.
Yeah, the people are
to be specific.
One is sitting next to me.
Okay, Ben Mulwa, yes, who else? And because you say people.
The people he represents,
DP William Ruto.
Maybe he'll help us to name them.
Okay, let me give you some choices. DP William Ruto and his contingent.
He's here, he will tell us, but he knows these people.
I didn't know I'm here on an assignment. But now,
quickly,
yes.
Let me finish.
Okay. Yes.
This, when where we are, we agreed that it was very necessary for us to have a 2010 constitution. The way we agree for the Building Bridges initiative, we all agree it was necessary to bring devolution, to have some changes in the governance structure. We all agree. But what happened? The same people we are talking about, they opposed it. And everybody in the country knew that this is a time is ripe for a new constitution for this country. The same people said, we do not want this constitution. They opposed it. Don't speak until I finish.
Okay, finish up, please.
They opposed it, yeah? And even after opposing, remember, there are still the beneficiaries of the very constitution they are opposing. They are sitting on the deputy presidency seats that they opposed. Okay. There are governors serving in the same devolution units that they opposed. Okay. So even this BBI, the content of it, when it will be passed, the same people, they will enjoy that prime minister's position they are opposing now. Because it does not mean that if you oppose, you will not benefit from the new constitutional dispensation. You will be part and parcel, and you must adhere to the new constitution that will be formed. So what we are seeing now, yes, it is a clique of people who are always looking for a way to manipulate any system or any agenda to suit their course of politics so that they continue politicking. And in this case, if they agree with us, they'll not have an opportunity. They'll not have a fodder, a political fodder for them to continue propelling their propaganda and to continue building the political limelight. Okay. So it is normal for people to build politics. But it's also very abnormal for people when our nation is talking to each other and nation people are coming together and you are going to Mumias to cause chaos.
Okay, thank you.
People are going to Bukungu Stadium to talk to each other.
Okay, what makes the Bukungu meeting or the Bukungu BBI popularization meeting more genuine than what is set to happen in Mumias cancelled by the security agencies?
It is gazetted. I mean, BBI is gazetted. It is a presidential directive that we need to meet.
In fact, don't they have right to also equally call for a gathering?
Yes, but you see, if you are gathering, just a finish. A police have a right to actually, abolish or ban
for security reasons.
For security reasons. Okay. So if they notice that this meeting together combined with this one, they'll cause chaos, and there is genuine reason to actually believe that this will cause chaos. Okay. So they have a right to ban for the sake of security. And that's what they have done. What came first? It was the Bukungu Stadium that came first. So it is just fair that you leave the first meeting that came first to continue. Then now they can call for Mias tomorrow in the morning. They can have their meeting
but
the following day in the morning.
Equally, to be fair to you and to be fair to Ben, to be fair to the viewers at home, equally, there were concerns about the intense language used by Atwoli and Malala, that in their presence, no function can take place. Okay, but I'm still coming to you. I'll come to Ben. Let me just finish up on you for purposes of clarity here. And it's still finishing up with you, Mheshimiwa. When you state that the DP William Ruto opposed the 2010 constitution, he turned out that he gained a lot advantageously politically out of it. But as it is now, you have been opposing the president since 2013 to 2017. But you appear to be taking the two apart now, supporting the president and opposing the DP. Why?
Oh, we are not opposing the DP. What you are saying, he should stop politicking.
Okay.
Yeah, he has never even come out to say he wants to vie for president. So for me to oppose or not support,
Charles,
just say stop politicking.
All right. Let me talk to my director. Charles, do we have the bite, Junaid Mohammed? Yes. Let's hear that. And Maina Commander.
It is clear that the DP is hiding behind Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the BBI to fight the president and those public officers the president has entrusted with the power of helping him run the government. Ruto should have the courage to face the president instead of hiding behind ODM.
And how do you talk about democracy and you're not comfortable when other people meet? Is it fair that you are the only ones who are supposed to meet? So when other people meet, then you start asking questions.
Kwa hivyo tunamuuliza deputy president wetu kwa heshima, wewe umeshaguliwa kuwa msaidizi wa rais wetu, tafadhali mpe heshima yake. Huyu wetu hata amejifanya sasa hata kama president hakuna. Huyu ni kama sasa ndio president, wewe hukuchaguliwa president. Wewe ngoja wakati wako uchaguliwe president. Ukishaguliwa president kama Mungu atakubali, lakini kwa maoni ya Maina Kamanda ni ya kwamba Mungu akujalie usije ukawa president wa nchi yetu.
All right, to just couple it up with a statement by Edwin Sifuna. He said, I quote him, Ruto is the face of blackmail in high places. He has specialized in blackmailing Kikuyu masses living in the Rift Valley to gain a way to the presidency. He attempted to sell narrative of finishing our common enemy to Raila, who declined the offer. Now he wants to blackmail both Raila and the president at the same time. A couple of other many statements here. For instance, Sifuna added, if Ruto is the last human being left standing in the land, Odinga will much rather make a deal with the birds in the trees, but not a character like William Ruto. You seem and acknowledging and overlooking him, yet we want to build the bridges. How then?
Yeah, that's politics. You remember how they have been abusing the president, how they have been abusing Raila. So that's a rebuttal from opposite sides.
But the president
and we are still in a political environment.
The president equally called Odinga names in the build-up to 2017.
Yeah, and they had a handshake. Ruto has called Uhuru many names before they came together to form a government.
That was when he was in ODM?
Yes.
Okay. Ben Muller, if I may come to you as we go on a break. A couple of other statements made by the Member of Parliament here, but does it stick in your thought that this is a genuinely a coming together of Odinga and Kenyatta? Of course, their political clout is enviable. It's close to none who can match them when it comes to the masses that they control.
No,
but
that's
equally,
not
why are
true.
we back to the drawing board? Because we equally had several reports which equally failed to offer the clean political break needed in the country.
I want to first bring my friend here, Caleb, to speed on very important things. First, the idea that only BBI can address national unity, national cohesion and all that is a fraud, as far as I'm concerned. The 2010 Constitution elaborately addresses issues of national unity, national integration and national cohesion. The entry point would be the composition of the executive. That is in Article 130 of the Constitution.
Okay.
It is explicit that the composition of the national executive, especially the cabinet, shall reflect the diversity of this country, ethnicity, and all that. As we speak today, that is not the case. Look at the cabinet that President Uhuru Kenyatta has. That is not the case. When you look at Article 232 of the Constitution, it talks about the public service. And the Constitution espouses the same.
All right.
Look at the composition of the public service today in this country and the ethnicity that is absorbed into the same. It doesn't reflect the same. It doesn't need another constitution to address an issue that is in the current constitution. The grievances that majority of Kenyans keep bringing up are because of these inequalities that are being perpetuated by the executive as we speak today. This is practical, not theory. Third, when you talk about also security, which is largely captured in Article 338 of the Constitution, it is the same thing. So on that, this idea of that BBI is the only thing that can sort out national divisions is a lie. Number two.
Do you see it coming?
No, just a moment. Number two. And I also need to bring to speed my friend Caleb here, because we have a responsibility to this country. The idea that BBI can address the divisions that are likely to be faced in the elections of 2022, again, is a lie. We need to go back to exactly 20 years ago, the elections of 2002. There was no this kind of an arrangement where people needed specifically either to amend the constitution or do all those fancy things to enable a new administration take over after the former President Moi. What Moi did and what President Uhuru Kenyatta needs to do right now is create an enabling environment whereby all Kenyans, including those who want to go to Mumias, those who want to go to Bukungu, and those who want to go to Kasarani or any other part of this country, to be able to speak to fellow Kenyans freely and be able to discuss whatever opinions that they hold, and at the end of the day, agree on a decision that they feel is the best way to go. In 2002, President Uhuru Kenyatta was running then as president. And despite Moi being in possession of all the state machinery, you never saw intimidation and blackmail and the use of state machinery to intimidate either Kibaki or to intimidate Raila or Kalonzo and all that. That is what the president needs to lead from the front in doing, and we will not have a problem in the 2022 elections.
So the government is perhaps to blame for the country?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Just a moment. Last one.
Okay, finish up, please.
Very quickly. He insinuated that there is perhaps the issue of there are people I could be representing or not. That could not be further from the truth. The reality is that, or the tragedy in this country is that most of the times when individuals hold independent opinions, they are considered to be out of tune with the nation. What we have seen, and you have heard it even in public rallies so far, people with the clamor around BBI or any other initiative, where people say either Baba kama amesoma, then we are okay. Kama Uhuru ametusomea, we are okay. Kama Ruto amesoma, you know, we need, for this country to move forward, we need people who agree to use the little capacities that is God-given to be able to make decisions that their conscience allows them to agree that this is the best for this country. So on this issue of a BBI, in my view, as I indicated earlier this morning, the president just needs to focus on the big four. Like now, there's something extremely good that is happening in Nairobi. The construction of the low-cost houses in Pangani commenced today. Those are the things Kenyans genuinely want to hear. We want to see the president setting up an emergency cabinet meeting to address the crisis of the children who are unable to report to Form 1 because of lack of school fees. Believe you me, once we address some of those small things, we will never have a problem with an election.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament, Caleb Amisi. We are hitting the break here on the program. When we come back, I'll sample some of your feedback on Twitter, continue with the discussion, finish up in the next 20 minutes or so here on News Compass, and we thank you for your time in joining us here on the first edition of the year 2020. We are coming back after the short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the program. We now sample some of your feedback here on the Twitter handle. Fanon says, before you bring the animal called BBI to Western Kenya, make sure there is no poverty in Luo Nyanza. That's according to Fanon on Twitter about 10 minutes ago. Kwangu says, BBI is a tool used to seek a referendum to test political might and strategies for allies. They used this in 2005, in 2010, always before an election in which the sitting president is in his last term. And Mike Omosh says, no one is interested in reviving the sugar industry in Western Kenya. The late Michael Kijana Wamalwa left us in the hands of Mudavadi, Khalwale, Atuoli, Wetangula, but unfortunately, they are all sellouts. What kind of government is Uhuru running? Now Wanjiku has to get to the streets and running battles with the police and lose lives because of basic services like roads. That is in regard to the Mwiki protests. And the SAIL says it's BBI first, healthcare, infrastructure, poverty reduction, etc. are at a distant second. Maybe one day the powers that will be will make the BBI edible and nutritious, and there will be no more Kenya or world hunger. One final one here says, a concerned Kenyan, Kenya shillings 300 million Kenya shillings to repair 13 kilometers of roads, no tarmac but grading and maram, meaning 25 million for every kilometer, put maram and culverts. That then will be destroyed when 1.7 billion Kenya shillings is released. Keep them coming. We'll sample as we head towards the end of the program here on News Compass. Though I'm coming to Honorable Caleb Amisi,
Yes.
and there has been a lot happening ever since the handshake, and it continuously underpinned the coming together of the president and your party leader, the ODM party. And now, in the midst of angst and anger that Kenyans continue to experience because of the economy, which seems to be overlooked, underappreciated, and acknowledged in all this, the GDP growth is stagnated, unemployment in the country continues to soar. Kenyans are losing jobs. Companies are shutting down across the country. There is a considerable capital flight from the market, dwindling in investments coming and investment fears continuously. How do the two gentlemen here address the economic point here? Because at the end of the day, what matters is the bread and the butter issue, not who will be the president in 2022.
I think the person who's supposed to be addressing those issues is the president, not with the two gentlemen. There is not two gentlemen. It is not Uhuru and Ruto. It is not Uhuru and Raila. The president of Kenya, as we stand now, is Uhuru Kenyatta. So we cannot bring in Raila when it comes to matters of prosperity and economy of this country and how bad our economy is performing. I agree. Kenyans are suffering out there.
Yes.
I am also a businessman, and I can tell you so many businesses are closing up. The economy is performing badly, and we are not doing well as a nation. I think as a country, we got it wrong. I mean, we've never assessed ourselves. There is no any serious administration that has come to assess a nation like Kenya and find out what is our energy, what is our potential as a country. You may ask, why do we have first world countries? Why do we have the stable Scandinavian nation? Why do we have others, the Arab countries? We do not have their oil. We do not have the powers of the US they willed. But why is a country like Singapore, which do not have anything? They don't have oil either. They don't have natural gas. They do not enjoy these natural, sources of prosperity. Why do they perform? They are competing. Their GDP is high. They are competing with the first world. The living standards is high. Some of them, we are told, they were even worse at some point, worse than Kenya, and now they have surpassed us. What is their energy? They have centrally located geopolitically to tap into the global flow of income, so that they attract investment, they attract investors, and the flow of income comes to the country. I look at Singapore and put Kenya as the same level of Singapore, that we may not enjoy the natural gas, the natural resources, but as a country, we are geopolitically situated in a way that we can tap into the global flow of income, so that we build our economy based on that. We are not going to cry here, our economy, as if it will come down from heaven like manna. We must look at what is our strength as a nation. We've never observed what is this economy must be built, and it must be built out of something. If we do not have the agriculture doing well, then what else is working for this country? Where is the money coming from? What is the resources coming from? Then now we can talk about how do we distribute it. But we keep on thinking about distributing the little we have, and to some extent stealing it. But we've never thought deeply that as a nation, what is our strength? How do we build our economy? That's where the next president or any serious person who wants to take this country to the next level must start. But all these things about Big Four agenda, what, they're all thinking about the resources we already have. But unless we think about what can we generate on top of what we already have, we'll still stagnate economically. Nobody will ever solve it.
All about
That is the baseline.
All about leadership.
That's the baseline. And the leadership must actually know the economy of a nation.
Okay.
Why do countries that have always been stagnated that all of a sudden came up? What did they look at? Taiwan. Taiwan enjoys, is the fourth in terms of finance reserve in the whole world. They do not have all these things. It's just a desert country. Yeah, they look at the science that they have invested in education, they have invested in science research, and that's why they are where they are. So we need to look at what is the strength of our nation. Why are we talking about big four things that are, so what is it? What do we have as a nation? So where do we build our capital? Where do we build our economy?
All right, that despite the political problems back at home for the Taiwanese government, which seeks to completely detach from China. In your view, then, it's all about leadership.
It's all about leadership.
In your view,
and the leadership that somebody says that we need a benevolent president also. Maybe that term can come in, but benevolent in terms of a person who loves his country so dearly.
Okay. When you say that, then in 7 years, before I come to Ben, since 2013, do you believe that the country's economy has been mismanaged and mishandled by the government? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes. That's for me or me.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Since time immemorial, for many years, for the past governments, the only government that tried to look at the economy of this nation was Kibaki's government.
Okay.
He understood the economy. He only had the other 5 years was a lot of political turmoil and political jostling. But he's a president who enjoyed. I mean, he actually understood the economy. That's why he could just borrow only for a reason. He didn't just borrow carelessly. He only borrowed for a reason. And you could see the reasons are Thika Road and the rest.
Okay, so, some tangible of infrastructure that we have seen. Ben, if I may come to you.
Yes.
Besides the personnel problem, the Jubilee Party of the president continues to experience.
Yes.
Equally, the president is facing sort of opposition from the central Kenya.
Yes.
Not political, but all about tea, Bairedram, dairy, and coffee. All are collapsing.
Yes.
And when you look at the country's economy, it's all about how the policymakers in the treasury should be turning around the country to make it resource-mobilized, productivity-led, export-oriented economy, and detach Kenya from the culture of the begging bowl around the world. Can the president, in 3 years' time, amend the economy?
Unfortunately, I don't like to be a prophet of doom, but there is very little he can be able to do right now to be able to retrieve the economy from the mess that we currently are in. Before my friend here, Caleb, and most of his colleagues in the former NASA coalition became more Jubilee than the people in Jubilee.
They are still ODM.
No, today they speak very Jubilee. One thing was clear. There were very serious concerns that were raised since 2014 about the way the former CS was running the National Treasury. Unfortunately, the president chose to ignore that. For whatever reason, I don't know. Now we have a crippled economy whereby most of these sectors, like by the time he seeks to do these immediate interventions like he did 2 days ago, ordering the treasury to give this much money for this and that and that and that. It is out of the reaction that he has realized of the people, even in his own backyard, who have agreed that the last 8 years have only been more costly for them than more beneficial. And that's really unfortunate because, in my view, he inherited a very vibrant economy to a large extent after the former president Mwai Kibaki. And it was very easy to really now escalate the gains that we had made. One of the biggest tragedies that will haunt his presidency even beyond his years is the borrowing spree that they embarked on. And there has never been anything matching to demonstrate what we did with 6 trillion shillings. If you walk around this country and you look at the state of those roads people are complaining about, be it in Kasarani or these kids who can't go to school or the many challenges, the dead agricultural sector, you can't demonstrate what we have done with 6 trillion shillings. And that is very painful because in the end, all these are monies that have to be paid, and they continue removing now the little that we can gather around here to even try to revive small industries so that we can be able to move this country forward. In my opinion, one of the urgent things that the president really needs to do is to completely put an end to the borrowing, and especially domestic borrowing. You'll be very surprised if tomorrow small-scale traders, Caleb, can be able to walk back to Equity Bank. You remember Kibaki really cut completely government borrowing from the local market. And suddenly, actually, you could see banks coming to you, hawking loans, literally, because now they had surplus cash and they didn't have anything to do, and they have obligations to their depositors. What we have today, I can't remember the last time I met a Kenyan who told me that they received a call from their bank telling them that, can you come, we have a chat. And those are the indicators that we really need to be able to address. So in my view, I'll still insist, if the president focuses on what is really important,
yes,
in focusing, in addressing the challenges the economy faces. Believe you me, we will not need these fancy conversations about who needs to hold which position in the next election. In fact, we may only end up with a parliament of 5 people and 1 president and 10 MCAs, and this country can move forward so long as the economy is functional. And I'll give you a scenario, especially in the Scandinavian countries. I have many friends who live in those countries. And one thing you'll be surprised, sometimes you go even into a town or a city and they have no clue even who their mayor is. And when you ask them, so why don't you know who your mayor is? Their answer is very simple. The day I'll not find water in my tap, I'll know who my mayor is. But so long as systems are functional, then there is no need for all these fancy conversations about who becomes what. And because we can never, it has proven so far that we will never be able to unite this country using laws. Laws can never legislate morals. What we have is political bad manners, where individuals deliberately choose not to do what they are elected to do or what they are appointed into office to do, and they take, again, that burden on Mwananchi, and the burden to try to fix that. Yes.
Okay, final minutes of the program. Honorable Hamis, if I may come to you and give you the final minutes before I get back to Mulwa and he finishes up.
Yes.
The bedrock belief of Kenyans is that they want a fixed economy, a politically sane environment post-2022, and there are doubts as to whether this can be a continuity, rather, sort of like posterity for the country. Can that be instilled, or is it a case of just kicking the can down the road, as was the case with the Committee of Eminent Persons in 2006?
Yes, Kenyans, they all wish for the best for this country and for themselves. What I don't really understand with Kenyans is the lack of, they do not come up to take part in this political process and express their wishes and their hopes for this country.
But they appeared before the BBI and give their views.
Yes, they appear, but when it comes to voting, I don't know, there is satanic, the demonic spirit that moves around, that whatever they talk during the day for the last 5 years, they'll not actualize on the ballot. They'll not actualize it. You will find any Kenyans complaining that this country, things are not the same, we need to change leadership, we need this kind of leadership. They know what they want. But something happens at the ballot, they just choose their own things. So I think it boils down not to leaders as such, but to the whole country as a nation. I think the countries that have really succeeded, they put politics aside. In fact, if we need this country to develop from one step to another, we need a sort of a council, a sort of a caretaker government, a council, to put everything in shape, even if it is for regions, even if it's 47 governors coming together to manage the economy of this country for 10 years, then go back to politics. Without that one, we will not be there. Because when one group is talking this language, the other group is opposing. It is all about politics and what do I have, what do I get. But we've never had a team to manage our economy and they put us to the prosperity path. And that's what we are liking. The president or whoever comes to power may have that intention. But the way our politics it is now, that there'll be always opposition, there'll be always people against, you know, such moves for no good reason, just to gain mileage. So countries that have really been able to, you know, to throw themselves up across that ladder, they have put a sort of a caretaker management system or a council. That's why you see even in Switzerland, they have a rotational president. You don't even serve for one.
No, it's exactly 1 year.
Yes. Yeah, 1 year only,
yes.
and you rotate to the next. And it is a council. It's not one person managing. It is a council.
And some even don't know who the president
is.
is.
Yeah, they don't even know, and they don't care. In fact, in most of European countries, if you see they are voting, you may find even
plain
a mayor,
paper.
a plain paper,
Yes, they vote on
and
a plain paper.
very.
They just write the name.
In fact, these things we cry about IBC, they don't even
they
care
don't
about
exist.
IBC.
Yeah.
They don't exist. Actually, they have the most retrogressive electoral system in the world. But they still put in leaders and everybody is comfortable because they don't really care. In fact, even the people who come out to vote, there are very few. You may even find somebody has been voted by 2 people and he's become a governor. They don't mind.
Okay. Final words to Ben Mulua here. When you look at the entire development, the BBI, because the most concern here is the economic aspect, because Kenyans want that to be fixed. We seem to be on the edge, that's on the abyss when it comes to the management of the country's economy. Are we on the verge of the cusp here to fix an ailing Kenyan economy, which will in turn have a positive effect on the Kenyan population?
I wouldn't specifically place that on the BBI, because you know some of these things are not as complicated as people want to present them. Running a country to a large extent would be not very different from the way you run your kiosk. For example, if today we bought stock of biscuits for our kiosk, a carton of biscuits, and then as I sell them, I sell some of them and I use that money to drink changa in the evening. And I also take some of them to continue eating from the same carton of biscuits. By the end of the day, I will not have a carton of biscuits left, and I will not have money to replace the same stock. That is the problem of how the Treasury was managed since 2013 until last year. But I have no doubt that Ukuri Yatani is putting in place measures to address that. I don't want to plug that on BBI, because BBI is just something that came up the other day, and it really is not part of really what forms this country. And it will disappear again, just the same way many initiatives have done. But Caleb mentioned something very interesting about councils. And one of the interesting things you find in the proposals of the BBI is the idea or the proposal to revert Nairobi as a county to the national government. And in my view, this takes me back to the same thinking that some of my friends, including somebody like Moses Kuria, who supported the Security Laws Amendment Act of 2016, and today is a victim of the same bad laws and the same rogue confidence that was given to the security systems. This idea of changing laws with individuals in mind, that rather than national interests and prosperity in mind, is actually one of the bigger disasters that we are facing as a country. My conviction would be that people need to focus, even as they discuss BBI or any other initiative, it could be Punguza Mzigo, Ongeza Mzigo, and all those things. The idea should be really to look at critically, what do we want this country to become by the year 2030? Now we have 10 years to go. By the year 2050, the same way Mao Zedong had a vision for China, where we want to be by the year 2100. That way, we can begin now to lay infrastructure in place, whereby even the president or the former prime minister or the deputy president will never be worried about who becomes what in this country, because we have systems in place. But as long as we are doing things with people in mind, we have had people insinuating that perhaps the president needs to come back as a prime minister. So there are people who are going to begin to twist these laws to suit certain interests. Those who are talking about dissolving Nairobi is because they have an interest. There's somebody already we know who has an interest to become a CS, to manage the Nairobi Metropolitan. This myopic idea of doing things is actually what has continued to plunge this country into more trouble than actually where we are.
All right, thank you so much. Nairobi issue is a whole I mean, echo chamber of concern about the capital management and how it is diplomatic, have more or less some feel that it's heading in the wayward direction. But we already have a governor who has the legitimate authority and mandate given by the people to equally, run the affairs of the county. One final text here from Kevin Kabuya on 40920. He says, in all, the Kenyan government has lost track in what it's needed to be done or what's not. Using a huge chunk of time in politics isn't a delivery. Kenyans want what's the best. A functional system running on efficiency. Good show, Mwalimu Msalimie, Mheshimiwa Caleb Hamisi, and Ben Mulwa. And that is one from Kevin, and they continue to stream in. Equally, we have your feedback on Twitter. That is, the hashtag is on Twitter. On Twitter is News Compass, and we'll be here again next week by the grace of God. For now, though, Mheshimiwa, you'll be in Bohungu Saturday. So tomorrow you'll be leaving.
You'll be in Busi. Yeah, so we'll meet somewhere in between.
No, I'll be eating mangoes in Kambani.
Okay, you'll be heading to, I hope, Makweni.
Yes.
To have some good mangoes. And thank you so much for watching the program. The hashtag on Twitter is News Compass. The short SMS code is 40920. I am Ayub Abdikadir Abdi. We'll be here for the morning show in about 6.5 hours' time. And we'll be discussing women in politics. That is going to be an important discussion. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante.
Asante.
Now